everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so
Hello.
much for joining me tonight. I have to just start off by telling you all bravo. This particular group had an almost poetic way of making such important statements that I think is gonna, I don't know, I think it's really gonna resonate with audiences. Um, Lina, why don't we start off with you?
Hmm. Hi, everyone. My name is Lina. Lina Lee. I'm from Toronto, Canada. The name of my film is called Have You Eaten? It's a candid portrait between my mother and I. It really began, we started the conversation by talking about food and the importance of food in Chinese culture. But gradually, as the film evolved, my mother and I started to talk about our generational barrier, our language barrier, and our cultural barrier growing up, myself in the West and her with her Eastern traditions.
And Luísa, how about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Luísa Macedo from Brazil. I'm talking from Rio, and Backyard Food is my first movie. And what inspired me was realizing that backyards are spaces that women preserve, but at the same time they are hidden there. They are limited to private space. Backyards are about to disappear in Brazil because the cities has a lot of buildings and that are springing in their places. So the histories of these women will disappear soon.
Great, amazing. So my first question, I think I'm going to start off with you, Lina, because it's first question is what inspired you to make this film, and your subject was you and your mom, right?
Mm-hmm. We filmed Have You Eaten in July of 2020, so smack during the peak of COVID when no one knew what was going to happen. And because it was COVID, I gained this new appreciation for my mother. After I've come back home and I lived under the same roof as her, she was very, as much as the rest of the world was on fire, she was very pleased that we were all safe under one roof and everyone was reunited. So she put in a lot of effort to try new recipes, especially from recipes from the Chinese social media WeChat. It's like, I mean, China has TikTok too, but it's the social media where she would scroll and see new recipes. So I would say every dinner on the dinner table, there would be a new recipe of food of some kind I've never seen before. So it began as that and how I appreciated her effort to do that. And that's how we started to chat. That's why I had this idea of sitting her down and talking about just the importance of food in Chinese culture, because for as long as I remember, food, everything is surrounded food, whether it's a gathering with friends, gathering with family, even business affairs, everything is surrounded by food. So it started as that, but as my mom and I conversed, a lot of it became more and more candid, I would say, and it became a bit of like a mother-daughter bickering. And I believe this the mother and daughter dynamic is a very unique one, and everyone has their own relationship and everyone has their own take on it. So as the conversation went on and some sort of past, we started to talk about her past and what I was like as a teenager and how I didn't understand her and she didn't understand me, and how sometimes I blamed her because she is not so well spoken in English, and all of this misunderstandings from the past came to be and resurfaced. So when we were editing the film, and I thought this film now has kind of changed. It's rerouted itself as they do naturally, and it took a new life of not just highlighting on food, but a mother's and daughter's relationship, while as you see in the film, the visuals is her making dumplings. And to be honest, in some ways, like figuratively, I am the little dumpling she's making, and I am raised by her. Yeah, so it started as a conversation about food, and it evolved into a mother and daughter conversation about our misunderstandings and our barriers.
Yeah, so your film was obviously incredibly unique because it's about your specific relationship with your mom. But at the same time, it's something that so many people can relate to. I mean, so many people have so many misunderstandings with their parents. And it's in moments like that over food where we talk and we kind of revisit the past, right? So Luísa, your film blew me away as well. Your first shots of these women going through these tight, dark corridors and then living this amazing, interesting life in these gardens that are surrounded by all this concrete and these urban areas was very provocative. What inspired you?
I think these places are very inspiring, are different places, but they preserve some, I don't know, some context from outside of the city. So you have horses walking in the city, and animals, and you have cars. It brings like is, I don't know, it's another city inside the city,
Mm.
and women take care of these places, and at the same time are a little bit hidden in these places. It's like a private space where nobody can see this work they are doing. So this is what, I don't know, what I was inspired by.
I mean, yeah, the juxtaposition of it all is really interesting. And then you bring in the subject matter of women in particular taking care of these places. Was really powerful to me. So for both of you, what was your biggest challenge while making this film?
The biggest challenge was shooting it all on my own, because it was during COVID. So I was, I guess, the writer and director and cinematographer and sound recordist. So it was wearing a lot of different hats. But at the same time, the challenge became a blessing because it was such an intimate topic. And it created a very intimate environment because it was my mom and myself. And if anything, the camera was a bit of an intruder because that's something that's never usually there when we talk. So yeah, the challenge was doing it all on my own, but at the same time, it became a blessing. But at the same time, I would like to point out that the camera also is very interesting because in documentary filmmaking, especially, if it forces a lot of truth out of people. If anything, it also forces people to sit still because things are set up. So as sometimes it could be seen as unnatural, but at the same time, they cannot move or like leave the seat when an uncomfortable question is asked. And that was definitely the case in my mom. Like if the camera wasn't there and it was just a conversation between her and I across the dinner table, she probably would have found ways to like get up to get a cup of water or like diverge the conversation. It definitely wouldn't have been so had so many how do I say so many core conversations.
Mhm.
Such a short amount of time, like less intentional.
And what about what about for you as far as asking the questions and connecting to what you're saying with all this gear on and doing everything for yourself? What was it like managing that? And I'm sure certain subject matters came up where you were a little more emotional, but you still have all this gear on and your attention is kind of split. Was that difficult for you?
Well, I conducted the interview first, and which later became the voiceover of the film. As you've seen, if you watch the film, you'll see during the film there is no actual like talking head of us. So when I did the interview portion, I pointed the camera towards my mom. There was no other camera to point at me, actually. So then when I set that up, I didn't think about it. And if anything, I did have earplugs in, and I just pointed the mic, and I tried to seat myself as comfortable as I can.
Got it.
Well, I'm not trying to think about everything, so I'm paying attention and she's not distracted. Because actually my mother wanted to know the script of the film, as in like know the questions I was about to ask. And obviously I couldn't have told her, because then she would have rehearsed her lines, or like, as she does, picked out errors from my questions and try to change the way I'm gonna do it, so then it wouldn't have been authentic. So I tried my best. And then the second portion of was actual shooting, which is the creation of dumplings by picking up chives in our backyard all the way to making the dumplings boiling. So that I just followed her process.
And Luísa, was there anything challenging for you during filming?
I think money, because I had a small team with me, a cinematographer and sound direct, but I did all the rest. I drive the car, I made the food and set, everything. So it's very, I don't know, it's such a big work, but it works. It's very exhaustive for me to do all these things.
Yeah.
And the pandemic thing.
Say that again?
We are on pandemic situation also, because I had to talk with these women with masks and eat food. It's about get close and touch. In Brazil, we touch a lot. We like hugs. We like to be in touch, and so we are in pandemic situation. So it was a problem also.
Got it. So I guess I want to know, what was your experience in the subject you set out to tackle in your movie before production? Did you have any experience with this subject matter?
I was interested by the subject since 2 years before. I was like mapping some backyards and photographing, talking with these women, but it was just an idea. I didn't had a shooting anything. This was my first my first movie.
Well, you did a very good job for your first movie. Very good. Lina, I'm assuming, I mean, this question for you is kind of, I guess, a little silly. I mean, you had experience with the subject matter because it's your mom, it's your relationship with your mom, right? I don't know if you want to expand on that, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, like it was my mom, so I clearly knew her from before, but I will say the film brought us closer, and that we got to know each other better. Actually, the making of the film has a bit of a backstory. My mom agreed to do this because I was very sad during this time during the pandemic. I was quite low. My mood was quite low because a lot of things that was supposed to happen that summer wasn't happening, as is with many people around the world. And that's one of probably the only reason, one of the main reasons she said yes, because when I said this is something I want to do, and I got to do it with the National Film Board of Canada, as they were asking for youth to submit films and like to produce and to see our perspectives at home. So then NFB had this call and I applied via Google form and I was one of the few that were selected. And when I was accepted to do it, I actually didn't want to do it because I was lacking the motivation to put in all this work and do it. But my mom, who already agreed, she talked me into doing it. She goes, "This will make you feel better because you're not honestly, it sounds bad, like I'm not feeling sorry about myself just sitting at home." So then, and it really truly is like a sign of her love, because it was if anything, a lot of inconvenience and trouble for her. She had to like do all this and this and this and like take my directions. So if anything, to keep it short, like I got to know her better, and like the film brought us closer.
Okay, so that brings me to, that's actually that's perfect for my next question. So Lina, this was a very personal film for you. So what impact are you hoping to have with this film on audiences?
I guess touching on what I said before, the impact first and foremost is as strong as on us, like truly, because I've watched this film so many times. We've edited it on and on and on. So like when I was locked and set for this 5 minutes of duration, it was on repeat. So I could truly quite rephrase all the things that my mom and I have said. And it in a way acts as like affirmation, to be like, oh, to kind of affirm my misunderstanding to her, and now understanding her more, her perspective as a mother. So when things like that happen again in real life, I'm like, okay, she just cares. She just worries because she's a mom, and try to like chip away my annoyance or my anyhow. But to the audience, I will say, because it's already been 3 years since this film was made, it truly has already had an overwhelming impact than I've ever thought it would. When I first made the film, to be frank, perhaps it had to be with me being in a low mood, trying to figure my life out, but also me knowing that it's a very personal subject. I was quite embarrassed to share it. I didn't actually share it on my social media even when the National Film Board published it on their website, because I was quite, it was just so personal. It's like it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's like airing dirty laundry out, you know, because my mom and I are bickering in the film. But then organically, the New Yorker saw it and they decided to license it and do an interview on myself and my family. So then that gave this a bit of a validation that, okay, there's some value to this because other people who are different from me can relate. And truthfully, I'll tell the story of an unexpected email I received, and that will tell how this has impacted the audience in ways I've never would have thought. Well, first of all, I had to break out of my shell to think, okay, this is not just personal and embarrassing. This is this could be relatable to other people who look like me, maybe a daughter and a mother, and perhaps they're also of Asian descent, so they understand this like disparity between the parent and the child. But then it evolved because I received this email from this German American gentleman who wrote me an email that's this long on a big computer screen. And he said to me that first he thanked me for the film, and he said that this really reminded him of the time when his family first immigrated to America, because there was not enough food to go around. So watching his mom cook was part of the cooking process. And while he watched his mother cook, he would lend a hand here and there. And listened to all his mom's stories of her life, and like as she bestowed her wisdom on him. So then she said that she thanked me for the film as it reminded him of his mother and the memories they shared that he very much so cherished. So anyhow, that goes to show that the most personal could be the most universal, which was very different from what I thought before. And I just hope people like see a piece of themselves however they see it. And if anything, I hope maybe it would inspire people at the least to have a conversation with their parents that they would have never had before, to talk about their misunderstandings and how in the past, misunderstandings in the past, and how it might they can untangle it, distangle it, and moving forward.
Amazing. That's an amazing story too with the email. So Luísa, what impact are you hoping to have on audiences with your film?
I think I want people think about gender and the spaces that women can occupy in the city and where they want to be. Because backyard can be really, I don't know, people can think backyards are beautiful and all this nature, all this food that they cook there, but it's also a place that hide these women. So I was interested and worried about people can reflect about this 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 place as a place where we can talk about food, about memory, but also about gender today in Brazil.
What other projects are in store for you two? Luísa, are you working on anything? I know it was your first film. I know something else is coming up. What's up?
Now I'm finalizing a movie about my two grandmothers and the difference in the one of them left me a book with the recipes she wrote. She died 2 years ago, and my other grandmother is alive, and she's not gonna left me anything because she's from another class, another social reality. So it's a movie about what we left in the world when we pass, what memories connected to food that we left in the world when we die.
That actually sounds very, very interesting. I'm really into that kind of subject matter, like what do we inherit from our family, both emotionally, right? Good and bad, physically, materially, like what are you gonna get what you inherit? What are you gonna get a house, money? It's a very interesting subject matter, and kind of like Lina, these personal stories end up always becoming very universal. Lina, what's up with you? What's next?
First of all, I like to say, Luísa, that's a beautiful subject. It's like digging into your own heart, and like probably and also your families. So props to you for doing that. For myself, I also work as a producer primarily, so I have a partner who we are constantly brewing stories together. But as a director, I am currently working on a short film about a 5-year-old young girl who gets dropped off at an overnight daycare. And for the first time, she has to be on her own and learn to make friends and to be independent without her mother. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the very brief premise of it, and it's based on my own story. So I hope that it could, like, I could do some like self-discovery while I'm making the film as well.
I love it. These personal stories. Good luck to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.